So I think we should begin. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kevin Lavery. I'm the executive chair of the Establishment Board for IAWAI. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to fellow board members, to staff, and to members of the public. This is only our second public board, so we are feeling our way in how to run things. Delighted to be here in IAWAI, and please note today's proceedings are being live streamed. And without further ado, I'd like to ask my fellow board member, Tim, to open proceedings with a karakia.
Tēnā tātou. Tēnā tātou. Nau mai whakatau mai. Ki tēnei hui o IAWAI. Ki roto i te whare o te kaunihira o Waikato. Tō ngā rua wahia. I tēnei wiki o te rā wairua o Kingi Tūheitia, te mati. Nau mai whakatau mai ki tēnei hui. Engari, nau mai whakatau mai a te rā wiki. Ki tūranga wāwai marae. Mō te koro nahena tuatai o tātou kuini ngā waihono i te nau mai tau mai ki tūranga wāwai a te rā wiki. Engari, ki mai ki tēnei hui, he karakia tātai mō te timata o tātai. He honore, he korore ki te atua, he maunga rongo ki te whenua, he whakaaro pai ki ngā tangata katoa. E te atua, ho mai ki a mātai, kā me te wairua, mō tēnei kaupapa, mō tēnei rā. Whanau, haro mai te toki, haumi e hui e tai ki.
Thank you. And if we move on the agenda without further ado, we have no apologies today. Are there any declarations of interest? No, if we can note that. And are board members happy to confirm the minutes from our first meeting?
Yes.
Okay. And we're now going to go into the public forum. We have three groups of people who want to make representations. We're going to start with Mr. John MacDonald. Thank you, John, for your submission, which the board members have seen as well. The floor is yours. What I'd like to say in terms of how we're going to handle the public representations, you have up to 10 minutes to make your representations. If you leave time within the 10 minutes, there's some time for board members to ask questions. And it's really up to you if that's all right. We're not going to be engaging in any debates, but we may have questions. We're really here to listen. We might have some questions if there's time, and we will respond in writing within 7 days. John, so over to you. The floor is yours.
Kia ora. I'm here in a few different capacities. Born in Hamilton City resident currently. I'm running for council on the east side of Hamilton, running for mayor, but less seriously on that front. I've also been a writer and editor for the City Watch New Zealand website, and we've been covering local government issues, especially Three Waters reforms. So what I want to talk about today is going to centre on this chart here. So for those of us who've dug through 600 pages plus of the June 2025 minutes from Hamilton City Council, this table comes up here. And my central point is that we should have had this kind of table and this kind of data presented to the public before we had public consultations informing this water entity, and also before councillors voted on it. So key points from this table here, so this is from your draft Joint Water Services Delivery Plan. And the point here is that over the next 10 years, you're projecting that water charges per household are going to triple or quadruple. And in terms of what you've calculated here as water services charges as a percentage of median household income, that's leaping from 1% currently to 2.6%. And so this is probably the most relevant information for your average water consumer or the public, and we should have had that before the decision was made to create this entity. So if you just move on to the next slide here. So the next page, so this is 344 of that 26th of June Hamilton City Council agenda. they talk about this table and they're talking about affordability benchmarks. So they say in 10 years' time, we're going to end up at 2.6% of median household income going on water services charges. But the justification here is that's all right because someone has decided that households can tolerate 4.5% of median household income as the affordability benchmark. One of the candidates I'm cooperating with on Hamilton West, Michael West, he's pointed out that if you're calculating affordability, instead of looking at the median household income, you should be looking at the lower quartile of incomes. So I couldn't find that exact number, but from Stats NZ, over 50% of retirees in Hamilton are earning less than $30,000 a year. So a couple would be $60,000 a year. And about a quarter of 30 to 64-year-olds are also in that income bracket. So for that lower quartile, that potentially it's going to be in 10 years' time, 5% for a couple, or a single individual, potentially 10% of their income could be going on water services. So you've kind of breached your affordability benchmark for the people who can least afford it. And on that page there, it seems a little bit dubious how this benchmark was decided upon, and we should have public consultation on whether we think that's acceptable. So if you go to the next slide. So this is from the business case that came out 6 months before we got that June table. So it was December 2024, before you created the water CCO. So a few things in here. You've taken out inflation from that projection, and that looks a lot more optimistic than what we're seeing 6 months down the track in June. I won't dwell too much on that slide, but if we move on to the next one. All right, so these are my quick calculations, and I've got a bit of a disclaimer in there. It's a couple of hours work. I don't have an entire team in 6 months working on this, so this is what I came up with. So apologize if there's any errors there. But basically, the blue stars down the bottom is kind of what we were advertised to us before the vote and the public consultation, at about 2 times increase in average household water costs. And then 6 months later, what we're seeing is between 3 and 4 times. If we go to the next slide. So if you argue I wasn't particularly fair in there, if we just bring up the 2026 and 2027, the gap closes a bit, but it's still looking like we're not getting what we were promised. If you move on to the next slide. All right, so you've done these compounded annual growth rates, seem to be one of your sort of metrics in terms of affordability going forward. So again, before we did the vote, you're looking at 10% or 10.3% growth rate for the joint CCO. And then again, 6 months down the line, after the vote, after public consultation, you're looking at 14.5% growth rate, which is considerably higher. Again, the top one doesn't have inflation in it, from what I can gather. 14.5 includes inflation. And if we take the inflation out, we're at 11.2, which is still higher. So again, this is the car yard sort of situation. The marketing guy on the car yard sold us one thing. We've driven off the car yard and we're finding out we're getting something quite different in terms of household affordability. Next slide, please. All right. So another thing I noticed, and again, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I can't find the equivalent graph for the Hamilton City Council status quo option A2. I can find it for Waikato District Council, the CCO with the Hamilton owned and the joint CCO. I can't find that for the status quo, which doesn't seem to be a fair representation. I'm of the opinion that we should be reconsidering going back to an in-house unit, but that business case doesn't seem to make a fair representation if that figure is missing. Next graph, please. What we do have in there, the closest thing I can find in that December 2024 business case is this one here. And this is looking at total rates income. And I assume there's population growth and inflation in there as well. But again, I think that in-house business unit's looking a lot more promising in light of the new numbers we're getting 6 months later. Next slide, please. All right. So one of the mayoral candidates, Sarah, is on the campaign trail, and she mentioned last night, the tens of millions of dollars worth of savings through creating the water CCO. One of my issues is from this page of the business case, we've got board and CEO costs at 18 million over the first, I think, 9 years. So that's 2 million per year, an extra board and CEO cost from setting up that water entity. So despite all the other potential cost blowouts happening, we've got that baked in from the beginning, which I view as an unnecessary cost from the outset. And so throughout the slideshow, I've got questions. So you said you'll answer questions after the meeting later on. So those are sort of my questions for the board today. So I'd like some written responses to those. Last slide. Yeah. All right. So one of the issues I've been taking with Hamilton City Council is their overuse of cartoons. So I view it as kind of treating the people who are paying their salaries as if they're preschoolers with these pretty cartoons, which I view are promotional rather than informative. They're selling us things, very oversimplified, a lot of blue ticks for the joint water CCO, green ticks all over the place. And yeah, so I think the Hamilton City Council needs to be a lot more transparent with the public, give us some decent data about how much this is going to cost. Again, that table from the first page is the kind of information that should have been presented to the public before creating the CCO. After the vote, after the public consultation, is too late for that information. And that information, I think the public can handle those kind of numbers. They don't need it to be sort of dumbed down to the point of this kind of cartoon. Despite that, I'm going to be taking these cartoons as a promise from the council and the CCO of what they're going to deliver. So if they deviate with this, I'm treating it as bad faith dealing and potentially sort of deceptive conduct, that if they promise us things in these cartoons and they don't deliver on it, I'm taking that quite seriously despite my disdain for the cartoon approach. That's my presentation for today. Any questions?
Thank you, John. You've just gone past the 10 minutes, so I'm not going to allow any further questions. But what we will do, you've obviously provided the analysis. You've got a number of questions in that paper, which we will answer in writing, if that's okay. So thank you very much, John, for your presentation.
Thank you.
And now I'd like to invite up Raymond Mudford and his colleague. Over to you, Ray.
Thank you very much.
And if you can introduce your colleague as well.
Well, thank you everyone for the opportunity to meet with you today. It's on, isn't it? It is on. Have to be a bit closer. Right. We'll eat it. Okay, thank you very much everyone for the opportunity to meet with you today. My name is Raymond Mudford, retired. My root industry is engineering and more latterly business re-engineering. So trying to turn companies around from, I guess, loss into profit. And also having done that to my own company as well. So it's just quite interesting. The purpose of today was really just to have a very high level conversation and starting off with with a number of observations. One is the apparent lack of public consultation in this whole process. And I'm only speaking from a Hamilton perspective, because I don't have any knowledge of what's been happening in the Waikato district. The other observation is the Becker-Carter report, an extensive document, one might say, but seems to lack some elements, such as the discovery of microplants as a solution to the issues that we have facing us regarding the two waters. The other thing is we're about to engage in or finalise an election process in October. We're discussing things today that the new elected members will have absolutely no knowledge about. And I think it's important, because this is one of the most important activities that are going on in this country, across the whole country, that the new elected members are fully informed of what's underlying this, the risks and benefits of the proposals, and that they're able to be fully informed in terms of assisting the decision-making process. So in that respect, we're suggesting that any implementation is delayed for 12 months. The reason for that is that the elected members are coming in October. They have to they'll be going through a planning process in early 2026. And as part of that process, this activity should be discussed, so that the balance of the pluses and minuses are well understood in terms of their role and their responsibility to inform the community and engage with the community. Some of the observations that we've made, and these are community observations, they're not technical. So one observation is we've seen recently the Collins Road fiasco, where a planned storage unit is being put into that area, an area that for a long, long time, in fact forever, has always been a water plane. And now we're being told that they just discovered that this has a high water table. If they've spoken to some people in the community, they would have said, well, it's interesting because that area in the winter, the water's up to your knees. Does that not indicate that there's actually a high water table there? So it's flagging the issue of the predetermination process, the discovery process, and the depths to which that process actually identifies the truth and mitigates the problems that are associated with the proposal. We have a history in Hamilton of projects running over cost and over time. So just signal that. The other history we have is the Pakiti plant through an OIA. We discovered that nearly every year that plant spills into the river. And the consequence of that to the community is that we pay twice to not fix it. The explanation for that, the legals get involved with the Hamilton City Council, the legals, the regional council get involved. Hello, we're now paying twice for an issue that should never have occurred in the first place. We also need to bring to your notice that Judith Collins has currently got a piece of legislation going through government on the public service and how that public service could perform a lot better than it currently does. That will also have an influence on the way in which this process will manifest itself in the future. John's already mentioned the forecast for water at the consumer level in Hamilton. The figure I've got is 4,000 from what they're currently paying, which is something like 500. And I know from a commercial perspective that when they put water meters into my property, my water rate went from 400 to 3,500. And that was for commercial. And that's because they put a differential on the water. So some of these figures are questionable in terms of the honesty to which they're actually provided. Colin, you like to say something?
Yeah. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a real estate consultant. I've been for 55 years. I'm now semi-retired, but for the last 8 years, all I've done is the reason why housing is so unaffordable. I was employed by the ministry to undertake research on the National Policy Statement on Urban Development Capacity and discovered that the council were not complying with the law. They are also not complying with the law on the National Policy Statement on Urban Development. And I've got heaps of background information that's probably would be of assistance to you, but probably not in a format like this. I'd like to come to the chair or give you this. This is the information on development contributions. So the council are using development contributions as a funding mechanism. We've been saying now for the last 8 years that the mechanism that they're using is fundamentally flawed. I don't envy you people setting up a new CCO, because the reality is a lot of the information you're being fed is not actually accurate. I'm fully aware of this legislation here. The council are legally required to do a commercial feasibility report every 3 months. They have not done one for 3 years. That is critical, and we're talking about affordability. I have 2 reports that were done by private property owners on peacocks from the 2008-2010 period, where they had 2 different alternatives for poo plants at peacocks. Both of them were rejected by the staff. They did actually have a peer review. I asked for a copy of the peer review and they said they couldn't find it. It's clear to me that the staff have actually got one option only, and that's what this report is. And the option, I believe, is going to be unaffordable to society. There needs to be consideration of other alternatives, and I'm happy to give you the information that I've got. One of the report was run by a world-renowned expert on sewage plants for microplast systems, and it was peer-reviewed, and it was wasn't even considered by council staff, and that was in 2008. So I think I'll just finish now. Probably run out of time, but happy to provide you with a lot of information. I'm fully aware of what the legal requirements are, and I don't envy you in your task with the quality of information you're currently being provided with.
Thank you. We do have about a minute if there are any questions. Tim? Okay. Thank you very much.
Just one final statement. If you are inclined, we would like to offer our expertise to assist the board, and suggest this is not the forum for doing that. That we're much better having an environment where we can robustly discuss the various pieces of information that we have in order to help you be better informed.
This is about the alternative engineering solutions that you're talking about, the microplants,
That's all part
etc.
of it. That's just part of the conversation.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. We'll be in touch. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for your help. And now we're going to move on to Shelley, who I think is going to give a presentation. Again, just to remind Shelley, up to 10 minutes. If you do less, there may be some questions from the board. Over to you.
Good morning, I'm Shelley and I am a resident of Low Road. The Nooka House stream flows through my property. We're about 250 metres downstream from the proposed wastewater plant site. So thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here on behalf of Stop the Stink Community Group. We represent residents living near the proposed Southern Wastewater Treatment Plant. We are here to express our strong opposition to its current proposed location. Can we have the next slide, please? The presentation outlines our community concerns regarding environmental, cultural, public health-related impacts of the Southern Wastewater Treatment Plant proposal. We are not against wastewater treatment itself. We understand that it is a necessity. But we believe this proposal in its current form and location poses unacceptable risks to our waterways, our neighbourhood, our people, our future. Slide 3, please. Our community came together on August the 9th at Rukahia School Hall. Over 80 residents attended alongside mana whenua, councillors and candidates. The meeting was a powerful moment of unity. Despite limited information, the message was clear: the proposed location is wrong. We unanimously agreed that the plant must be moved. Slide 4, please. Since that meeting, we've formed a working group, engaged legal representation and established a community fund. We've committed to gathering information, demanding transparency and supporting mana whenua in protecting cultural and environmental heritage. This is not a protest, it's a coordinated, informed response. Slide 5, please. The proposed site currently sits within the Waipa district, but there's a plan to shift it into the Hamilton City Council jurisdiction. This change, along with the land designation, is driven by the Hamilton City Council, who also own the land. And yet consultation with adjacent property owners has been minimal to non-existent. This lack of engagement is frankly unacceptable. Slide 6, please. The Becker report findings. Only this week we received the Becker report. It confirms the preferred site involves discharge into the Nukaho stream, which flows directly into the Waikato River. This raises serious red flags. The site selection criteria appears deeply flawed, and the environmental risks are significant. Slide 7, please. Let me be specific. The immediate area faces odour pollution, heavy traffic, the risk of untreated discharges. Many residents rely on bore water. Groundwater contamination is a real threat. There's also microbic and viral exposure from stream contact and contamination of mahina kai, especially tuna. Industrial activity nearby adds ecotoxic pressure and nutrient overload. This could lead to sewage fungus and algal slime over large distances. So here we're going to pause for a moment while we show you some photos and let you reflect on what's at stake here if the Nukaho becomes a sacrificial stream in all of this. Doesn't look much like a farm drain that it was described in the report. Right, environmental and health risks. The risks don't stop there. Discharge from the plant would enter the Waikato River upstream of Hamilton's drinking water intake. This includes persistent chemicals, also known as forever chemicals, pharmaceuticals, and even illicit drugs like methamphetamine and cocaine. It also adds fecal microorganisms to recreational areas and contributes nutrients that fuel algal blooms. This is not local water done well. It's a recipe for long-term degradation. Next slide, please. We must also consider the cultural impact. This proposal threatens mana whenua heritage and mahina kai. It undermines trust, ignores community voices, and risks irreversible harm to the environment and to tangata whenua. Consultation must be meaningful, not a box-ticking exercise. Slide 10. Our position is clear. The proposed location is unacceptable. The site selection process is flawed. We demand transparency, proper consultation, and relocation of the plant to a safer, more appropriate site. Slide 11. We are continuing our legal and technical review. We request the opportunity to present again once we've fully reviewed the Becker report and other documents. We will bring experts to support our case. We will continue to mobilise community support until our concerns are addressed. Slide 12. So I'd like to thank you for your time and consideration. We're not here to obstruct progress. We are here to ensure that it's done responsibly. We stand for clean water, community voice, and a cultural respect. please feel free to contact us at stopthestink2025@gmail.com. I'm Shelley Wilson, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Shelley. That was concise. We've got 3 and a bit minutes left. If people do have some questions, I will kick off with one. Have you identified any alternative sites, Shelley?
Yes, we have.
Could you let us know what they are? We haven't yet looked at this project. We're doing our due
Okay.
diligence as a board now.
Yes, we are composing quite a report.
The developer is putting together a full green site development, and they will be very happy to talk regarding.
Okay. We'd be interested to know what that option is.
So that's the one good option to be looking at, which after reading the paper reports, the area where he is was a site was considered close to there, which ticked a lot of boxes, other than it wasn't big enough site. So
Okay.
he provide ample site for future.
Okay. Well, we'd be interested to see that. That would be great. Okay, thank you. Tim, I think you have a question.
Thank you for your presentation. It was quite clear and precise. Kevin asked the question that I was going to ask you in terms of alternative locations. So we look forward to receiving that information.
Oh,
Thank you.
awesome. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that. I think we're done. Thank you very much, Shelley, and thanks for all of the effort that all of the participants have put into this. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the rest of the agenda, if we can get it. So I think we've got my own report, which is there for information. I'm very happy to answer any questions for the board if you have any. But I identify the 6 major things that are happening at the moment. For members of the public, we're pretty new. One of the things we're doing at the moment is our own due diligence on what we've inherited from the 2 councils. So where are we at the moment? Are we on the, are we moving in the right direction? Is there anything missing? Is there anything there we need to do differently as a new organisation? So that's the process we're going through now. So some of the things that have been raised yet, we haven't yet looked at, but we will be looking at in the coming weeks, just to be clear. And obviously, we've got a couple of big tasks which are identified in this report. Probably central is a new water services strategy, which is going to be what are the early priorities of IAWAI? What is what should the prices be? How many are we confident that we can do 100%? And what is the current assumptions on the capital program, etc., etc.? All of those questions will be addressed in that water services strategy. Are there any questions from Tim or Dave in terms of my report? Thank you. So if we move on to the establishment progress update, Peter.
Hopefully the report is reasonably straightforward. There are 306 days to go before everything needs to be transferred, so there's a lot of work to do and the clock is ticking. Generally, we are on track. As with any large program, there's some things that are ahead of schedule and other things that are more challenging. At this stage, we've got interventions in place to sort out the challenging things and make sure that we get them back on track. And the report gives you a sense of the breadth of the work program, the things that have been achieved to date and what comes next. It happens in the context of continuing very high levels of partnership between the 2 councils and working teams that comprise people from Hamilton City, from Waikato District and Waikato Watercare, and very happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Peter. Are there any questions for Peter? Dave?
Thank you. I just moved the microphone, Peter. We're sitting next to each other. So 2 questions. One about, and we heard this morning from the public submitters about the election and making sure incoming councillors are briefed. I note in your paper that you talk about inducting new councillors on the work program. Don't need to necessarily answer now, but certainly the next board meeting would love to see what the induction program looks like from a IAWAI Flowing Waters perspective for any new mayor, noting that Hamilton will have a new mayor and new councillors.
So certainly we can come back with that. The current outline provides a day in the Hamilton induction program to deal with water, which will include the substance of the big water issues, the opportunity to talk to them and brief them on the creation of IAWAI and the establishment process, and an opportunity for the board to engage with them in terms of the things that you are working on and the big challenges that come ahead. And there will be a similar opportunity, I'm not quite sure of the detail, with Waikato District to make sure that everyone is briefed. And equally, we will need to use that opportunity to close the loop with Waikato Tainui as the third partner in the relationship.
Thank you. And in page 11 of board books, talks about better off funding from Waikato District, which would have come from previous water reforms. Is there any estimate in round numbers, perhaps, of what that might be worth? Because anything that can lessen the cost and utilise funding in an appropriate way is a great thing to have.
I'm trying to remember how much is left. The answer was less than we had thought. So we had hoped the carry forward would be in the order of $350,000. It's about 50, I think, from memory. So it's not going to fundamentally change the world. But certainly the approach that both councils have used to date in the establishment process is to use remaining funding from the better off funding to fund the establishment process. So we would expect that any remaining better off funding is gone by the time we complete the transfer at 30 June.
Okay, thank you.
So just to be clear then, that means that's government grant covering it rather than ratepayer money.
That's correct.
Yeah. Tim has a question. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. I think you covered off that better off funding query that I had. Just in terms of health and safety, obviously the board is very keen on ensuring a smooth integration and merging of health and safety systems between our respective councils and Waterkey. Any other further comments you want to touch on that in terms of any challenges or?
So, well, in terms of health and safety obligations for the existing water operations, they remain fair and square with the two councils and Watercare as the employer and the operator of water systems until 30 June. In terms of IAWAI itself, we've got a little bit of work to do just to close the loop, but all of those that have been seconded to IAWAI or employed are in essence working within the framework that Hamilton City Council has to ensure that people are safe and that works. And as part of the establishment process, we're working through how we stand up the necessary health and safety systems and oversight and controls so that when staff transfer, you can be confident that we've got all the right things in place to keep people safe and deliver safe drinking water.
Thanks, Peter. So I think that's it. So I think we can note this report as a progress report. Thank Peter for his report and move on to the next item, which is the water services strategy, which Vishal will cover in a moment. I'll just say a few words of introduction, if I may, Vishal. Look, this is a really important strategy going forward. We will be finalising it early in 2026. We will go through a public engagement process on this. it's going to bring together a range of issues, and it will reflect some of the due diligence we are doing as a board. You know, are we appropriately funding growth going forward? Are there any shortfalls in renewals requirements that need to be addressed? At what level are we going to perform for the capital program? In the current year, there is an underspend. There are special circumstances around that. Are there any requirements of the new regulators, particularly the economic regulator, that we need to take on board? And what levels of efficiencies can we expect in this area? Because at the moment, under the current plans, nothing is built in. So they're all the sorts of things we need to work through. We obviously need to include a vision and what that means for investment and charging going forward. So this is a series of key performance measures for the board to make sure that we are on track. So it's a really critical document. This is the first report. We will be getting a monthly report on this going forward. So Vishal, could you briefly introduce us? And could you, given that members of the public have raised public engagement a number of times, could you talk about what sort of engagement we're anticipating for this document, given its key strategic nature for us as a board and for the public in terms of water charges?
Kia ora, Chairperson, Atamare, members of the board and members of the public. So that was a very good overview, Chairperson. Thank you for that. So the process of developing the strategy is well underway. Attached to the board report is a high-level project plan, which provides an overview of some of the key milestones we're working towards before the strategy is adopted, which has to happen, as the Chair mentioned, by June next year. At this stage, we're hoping to have a draft by November this year, but that draft is highly dependent on some key outputs, for example, financial modelling, which is based on the Capital Works program, which the Chair mentioned, and also some work we're doing on a charging policy based on that program as well. We had a very good board deep dive session last week. The board provided some input on the purpose statement, some guiding principles, and some strategic outcomes. And just a correction, Chair, in the report it refers to strategic objectives, but as per the board's advice, we've changed that to strategic outcomes, and we'll be using those to inform the strategy write-up. We also, there's several policies that are required to support the strategy, and work is also underway on that. A key one is a significance and engagement policy. So we've got staff from both the shareholding councils looking into that. The development contributions policy, a decision will need to be made in terms of an agreed approach, which the board will be considering at a forthcoming session. I mentioned the charging policy, and we've started some thinking on that as well. A waiver policy, which is similar to the rates remission policy. So that's we'll need to make sure we've got that in place as well by June next year. With regards to timing for engagement, as I mentioned, if we do have a draft of the strategy by November this year, we're hoping to have some pre-engagement before Christmas. Obviously, mana whenua is key, so we'll be sharing that draft with mana whenua and also members of the public as well. The shareholding councils and Waikato Tainui will also be key for key entities for feedback, and that will happen after Christmas. With regards to the formal consultation as required by legislation, we're aiming to do that in March, April next year, hopefully concurrently with the annual plans of the respective shareholding councils. So we are joined up in our engagement consultation with the public. And thereafter, there'll be an opportunity for the public to provide submissions to the on the draft strategy, and those will be considered by the board in the finalization of the strategy before it's adopted in June next year. I think I'll leave it at that, Chairperson. Happy to take any questions or comments.
Thanks, Vishal. Tim.
Thanks, Vishal. This morning we heard from a number of our community members, and we have their contact details, so it'll be quite good to inform them directly of when this consultation comes up in future. Thanks.
Dave.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for the report and the update. And just a point about the financial model, I think, really important for us as a board. And I encourage you to make sure that it's a flexible model, so that when we ask questions about what are the options in the model, you're able to calculate them and not have to go back. Because I suspect we will have to make some optionality in the model, noting the LTP plans of both council and what that does from an affordability perspective and a delivery of capital, etc. And I suppose it's a little disappointing that it'll be difficult for you to complete that without the revaluation of Hamilton assets to go, well, what's the impact of the depreciation going to be on the model? But nevertheless, we'll encourage us to make the right choices with the best information that we have. But certainly that modelling and actually, what is the optionality and the consequence of choices that we might need to make in due course before we get to, early next year. So yeah, really encourage you around some flexibility.
Thank you.
Thank you. But good report. Thanks, Kevin.
Peter.
Just wondering if I can provide some assurance that despite the final revaluation of Hamilton and Waikato assets not being available until a bit later, we will have scenarios reflecting likely outcomes of revaluation, which will be close enough for the purposes of exploring strategic options and choices. And then as the revaluation is finished towards the end of this year, the real numbers will be substituted. So we're doing our best to work our way through that. In terms of the revaluation, there are differences in the way that the two councils have valued water assets historically, and for the purposes of the transfer and creating IAWAI, we have to move both councils to the same basis of valuation for all of the assets that will be transferred. That's one of the wrinkles in making sure we've got all the ducks lined up.
I mean, just on that, and I know some of this is already in hand, I'm really keen that, I know we've got a deep dive next week on some of these issues, which is the start of a conversation. I do think we need to really understand this will drive the renewals budget is going to rise, but we need to be very conscious of some of the issues that have been raised this morning in terms of affordability. So I'm keen that we get on with this, that we also are moving into a new world, brave new world of economic regulation, which we've not had in this space. We know that Watercare are an early mover in this area with some very challenging savings targets, so keen to learn from their experience. Probably it's worth us looking at beyond the council's approaches and getting some external advice at some stage about that new world of economic regulation as well. So this is something we can talk about offline, but I think it is a critical area. It will be a major component of the price path over the next 10 years. So we need to get it right and be conscious of the affordability issues. But so this is one aspect of the report that, but this strategy is going to bring together everything, isn't it? But that renewals aspect and the valuation process is absolutely critical. Thank you. Let's move on then to Jackie and the investment portfolio report. Again, I did have some notes here. As an establishment board, I'll just say a few words, Jackie, before I bring you in. We've got responsibility for the major projects. Therefore, there's a bit of a task here in this transition year about how we work with the business as usual, because there's a lot of other investments outside of this that we need to just make sure that staff only do things once. They don't do things twice, because we've got a bit of a unusual arrangement in terms of who's responsible for which project. We are inheriting a very substantial program here. And again, we as a board are doing our due diligence on this inheritance to make sure that the projects are in the right place. Where are the risks? Where are the opportunities? Where are we in terms of timing and budget and all that sort of stuff? So this is the beginning of that. And as a board, I think we've got our first session today on the projects anyway as a workshop. And we will obviously be digging into individual projects in future. And we've heard a lot this morning about the Southern Wastewater Plant, which is one of those projects. So over to Jackie.
Kia ora, Kevin. Tēnei te mihi kia koutou. So this paper is really just introductory for noting. It simply lays out the major projects and programs that IAWAI has been contracted to oversee and manage during this year zero transition period ahead of the 1st of July 2026. Those projects are listed in paragraph 8. And the report also notes that each of these will be a deeper introduction to each of these projects will be undertaken as part of the board's induction process, as you say, Kevin, the first being this afternoon. Going forward to the board, the intention is to provide regular portfolio reports to you, and we look forward to working with you to develop the format, content and level of detail that you're interested in that portfolio reporting. Decisions associated with each individual project will be presented under separate cover. The report also notes the approach that we're proposing to undertake the management of the portfolio over the coming 10 months, with either myself or Andrew as the Chief Strategy and Planning Officer acting in a project or program sponsor role. And that's really to strengthen alignment, governance oversight, while minimising disruption to delivery of the projects, because we are fully reliant on existing staff to continue what they're doing in driving each of those projects forward. So with that, I'll leave it there and take any questions.
That's great, Jackie. Any questions from Dave or Tim? Dave?
Thank you. Thanks, Jackie. Just 2 points, if I can, on your point 13 about the report will include and what it includes. I just asked for consideration of risk to be reported as well, please. So you've got, financial information, portfolio dashboard, etc., but certainly risk to be included, including clearly public consultation risk and any of those sorts of factors. And then also the other one is, are the programs going to meet the benefits that were intended? So certainly I can assure you that benefits intended up north, it did result in 2 projects being stopped when at particular gates of the project, when it was like, well, here's the project, but actually the benefits aren't going to be realised, so don't spend any more money, stop, make sure the benefits are actually achieved. So thank you.
Just to add to that as chair, Jackie, as well, my view, and we can explore this more in the workshop, is that we have quite a short and concise progress report on the big projects that looks at, timescales, budgets, benefits, risk, with a sort of, if you like, a traffic light analysis. But where we've got a challenge, where we're slipping or not meeting all of the expectations, I think that's where we need to do a deep dive. And I'd like us to have a mindset of don't bring us a problem, bring us a solution. So look at what the issues are and show us what mitigations are being made, or what issues we need to do as a board to get the thing, to get well on each of the projects again. So have a very sort of action-orientated approach to it. I hope that's helpful. Do you want to make any closing comments, Jackie, or any other issues that the board want to raise? So it's a report for information. So if the board are happy to note that, and then we'll move on to the next report on the water metering pilot. This is a first really significant decision today that's been considered. It's a big issue for Hamilton, and we already have mechanical meters in Waikato for both commercial and for residential. We do have metering for commercial customers in Hamilton, so this is really an issue around residential. We are looking at two pilots, one in East Hamilton and one in a remote community in Waikato, which isn't about the meters themselves. It's more around connectivity, so that you don't have to physically get officers out there to measure what's the consumption. And I think the idea is to start in the hundreds, but move to the thousands to make sure that we get the right product. And that will impact both jurisdictions, because obviously within Waikato district, they are every year they replace so many meters. So we need to be replacing them with a standard product set going forward. And there's quite a wide range of choices there. But it's also about how we deliver the service in terms of, is it something IAWAI does? Is it something we outsource entirely, or is it a hybrid between the two? And I think it's also around the customer service within the pilot to make sure that it's a good experience for the people of Hamilton and Waikato district as well, so that, you know, if someone's booked to come in, that they actually turn up on time. If there's a fault, it's fixed promptly, etc., etc. All of that is really critical too. So over to Lisa, who's the project lead on this project, to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Ingalls, and I am a Program Manager at Hamilton City Council. I'm here to present the Water Network paper today, or the Water Metering and Management Service. Legislation does set out a transition period of 5 years away from capital charging for waters, noting that this is the current charging model for Hamilton City. Universal water metering is recognised as a key tool in order to manage water demand and to charge based on usage rather than capital value of home. There is a strong expectation from the government that water meters will be rolled out where they are not already. The recommended option to achieve compliance with government legislation is the implementation of a water network, of which meters are a component. It is recommended, however, though, before proceeding with a full-scale rollout, that we do our due diligence via a number of community pilots, which are outlined in the paper. The two pilot areas are Hamilton East. This area has been selected because it will help us to inform complexity around the service connections. I don't wish to be ageist, but it is an older area of Hamilton, and so that will help to inform the state of the service connections and costs associated with upgrading those. We will pilot 200 residential connections, and up to 20 commercial and industrial sites will be fitted with data loggers to convert the existing mechanical meters, which need to be manually read, to a semi-smart meter. We will also be trialling several different types of telemetry. The other pilot area is Te Akau, where we will be looking at 27 existing in-place mechanical meters and fitting a data logger to those so that we can test the telemetry method there. The reason for the selection of that community is because it's rural and remote, and that will help us to inform complexity around that telemetry as well. We'll also be looking at piloting a customer app for our residential services, and that will give customers information about their water usage in near real time. In addition, we'll be looking at a meter data management solution, which will collate the data from the meters and give us information at an operations level around water usage and the performance of those meters. It's recognised that this is a significant investment, and so the purpose of the pilots is to carry out due diligence around water meter type, telemetry method, as well as implementation services and the overall program costs for a wider rollout. Today, endorsement is sought to proceed with the due diligence pilots, and the program will return after the conclusion of these to present analysis, outcomes, and options going forward. Any questions?
So just to be clear, the funding of the pilot is covered in the council's plans and was subject to engagement, and we have the budget for both councils to fund this. Are there any questions for Lisa? Tim?
Just keen if there was any initial feedback from our residents in terms of wanting to participate in that trial since we've notified it.
There have been some volunteers already, yes.
Dave?
Thank you. Thanks, Lisa. So I just want to make sure I've got it right, that legislation says we have to make a change. So that's not an option to just stay with what we've got.
That's correct.
Okay. And for me, Kevin, what I think I heard you say, Lisa, was about approving the pilots. To me, we're approving today the small trial, which is actually pretty small, 200 plus 27. And then following learnings from that, we'll come back and before approving a wider scale pilot. So just checking in on that.
That's correct.
Okay.
And just to be really clear, we are testing water metering. We are not moving to user pays.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Just to be really clear. So members of the public will continue to pay effectively a capital rate whilst these water meters are rolled out. This is about making sure they work, that we're clear how we would manage it going forward, and for the individual consumers, what the benefits would be. So we do need to use that information, don't we, to say what would the implications be of going to a user pays basis, but they will continue to pay rates for water in the way that they have done in the recent past.
Yes, they'll continue to pay as they currently do.
Yeah. So finally for me, thank you. Great work. So fully supportive. To be clear, I had my approval for that. And as I was doing some more due diligence just the last couple of days, noted a lot of the reports from 2011, 2012, and then 2024 out of the Kapiti experience of rolling out water meters, where they said consumption dropped by 25, 30%. I think Tauranga had similar stats, but they also said that they reduced losses through water leaks by about 90%, and high water users declined by about 70%. So noting that strategically Hamilton will run out of water from the Waikato Awa currently at a point in the future. So reducing the reliance, and if this can assist with it, it all fits together well. So thank you.
And just picking up on that, these are the sorts of things, particularly when we move to a bigger pilot, that we need to work through, because we'll need to build that into the broader business case that will need to be revised in the light of real evidence on the ground. So I'm really keen that we've got evidence-based decision making going forward, really. So it's a critical project, this, and good paper. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
So that brings the short and sweet, just over an hour, 1 hour and 4 minutes, the public board to an end. So I'd now move a resolution to exclude the public for some commercially sensitive items, if I may. Do you support that, Tim and Dave?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the members of the public for coming and making your presentations. I look forward to seeing you again. Should we have a 5-minute comfort break?